Small Business Survival Guide: How your company can pull through an economic downturn. Keeping your company afloat during an economic slump is challenging, but not impossible. You should plan for being in survival mode for 18 to 30 months, set realistic goals, and realign your business's operation with the current economic reality. Slash costs deeper than you think you need to, because things will get worse if you should go through this process again in 9 or 12 months. Let's get started. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweet Kiwi. I hope you are doing fantastic. I'm doing marvelous. If you're doing as great as I am, go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka and let's roll. Now, today's conversation revolves around a topic that is not a happy one, but we have to address it, right? How your company can pull through an economic downturn. Now, first thing you need to do, and this is the big section here, you want to reduce and slow down cash outflows. Folks, it's very important. Outflows, I'm talking about expenses. So you want to cut your monthly rent, right? You want to, contact your landlord and negotiate a lower monthly rent. You can even sign a longer term lease in exchange for the lower rent if you have to, right? You have to understand your landlord is running a business too, right? So he or she would rather have you in the property rather than having to incur eviction cost and look for vacancy cost and look for another tenant. So they don't want that. So your landlord will probably work out a deal with you if you do it the right way. Okay, it's a win-win. It's better for you that you stay and then you have a lower rent than actually get out and the landlord has to look for another tenant. Negotiate lower rates with utilities companies, right? I'm talking about water, power, internet, and phones, right? You want to call each vendor and you want to, basically tell them, hey, I would like to have, I've been with you guys for a while now and I'd like to have, a better deal, right? But before you do this, you want to call your vendors competitors, right? And you ask what kind of deal they can offer a small business looking to save money on their utilities. You want to be very specific, all right? One thing you want to do also is that once you get the offers from your vendors, competitors, try to have a little Excel spreadsheet and reduce the offer by 15%, for instance. I'm not saying you should lie here, but I'm just saying you want to use bargaining. You want to increase the bargaining process. You want to tilt that to your side, right? So trying to increase, for instance, let's say you're currently paying $500 for power, right? Electricity bills in your business is $1,000, all right? And you call the competitor, and the vendor's competitor says, we can do this for $800. When you call your current provider, your current electricity provider, tell them that the rival is willing to do it for $750 or $700, right? You try to tilt the balance a little bit in your favor and see what your current provider of electricity can come with. Number 3, you want to cut wasteful discretionary spending. I'm talking about newspaper and magazine subscriptions, right? Those are discretionary. Anything that is not central to the business, anything that is not necessary in the normal operation of the business, you want to cut it, right? Those discretionary expenses nibble away at your bottom line and they're not necessary, which is why they're called discretionary, all right? Number 4, lease or buy used. You don't want to buy new, right? If you need a new computer or office furniture, you can lease instead of buying, right? The thing here is that in the short run, your goal is to survive. Your goal is to make sure the company pulls through the economic downturn, the recession, all right? So even if you end up paying more in the long run because you're leasing as opposed to buying, you want to save cash in a down market. Another thing you can do to reduce cash outflows is to pay accounts payable later. I'm talking about, vendor bills. You call your vendors and get better terms with them, right? If before you were on a 30-day payment terms with your vendor, ask for 45, ask for 60 days. Again, The strategy here is similar to what we used with the landlord, right? Your vendor would rather have you as a client than lose you. So chances are, if you do it the right way, they will be amenable. They will be happy to work out a deal with you. But you have to do it. All right. I'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. We are talking about how your company can survive in a recession. Now, in the last section, I spoke about the fact that you need to reduce and slow down cash outflows. Now, in this section, I want to talk about the need to increase and speed up cash inflows. Cash inflows meaning revenue. All right. Now, if you like the content you've been hearing so far, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Turn on the notification bell so that you can be informed whenever we drop a new show. We drop a show every single day on a whole catalog of subjects, from finance to sports to health to relationships. We are the world's largest infotainment show, and we're trying to cover as many topics as possible. All right. Now, when it comes to increasing your cash inflows, number one, you want to collect accounts receivables sooner. Now, I'm talking about customers actually paying you, right? So if customers right now are paying you within 30 days, call them up and negotiate a deal with them when they pay you a little earlier, like within 20 days or 15 days, right? And in exchange, you can offer a discount of 1 or 2%, right? Or 3%, whatever it is, trying to get as much cash and hoard cash as much as possible into the company. All right. You have to understand here that the bottom line here is that you need cash to operate in a recession, and the cash can come from customers, and not every customer is suffering the same way you're suffering, right? Some customers have deep pockets, so they can they can navigate a down market with no problem. So use that to your advantage. Number 7. Preserve and pamper your existing client base. It's very important when you are operating in a recession, a down market, that you are still grateful for the customers you currently have, right? What I'm trying to say here is that if you have to cut expenses, some discretionary expenses, make sure that you're not touching too much the clients who are bringing the bulk of your revenue, right? We have something called the Pareto principle that says 20% of a business revenue 20% of a business clients provide 80% of the revenue. So you want to really pamper that 20%. That's where the sweet spot is. So you don't want to cut on travel and entertainment for those clients. You would want to cut on the special advantages, the special perks and rewards that those clients have. You want to keep those smoothly working. It's very important. All right. Number 8, you want to double down on your top 10 clients. This is what I was just talking about earlier. Your top 10 clients, even if they're not part of the 20%, they're probably 40% or 15%, whatever they are. You want to double down on those clients. What do I mean? You want to empower your sales force to contact those top clients. You want to call, email them, send them a card. You want to invite them to dinner, to lunch, right? You ask them to sign a long-term contract with you, with your business. You are giving them the best deals, right? The thing here is, why is it important? Because in an economic downturn, some companies might be looking to jump ship. They might be looking to cut costs the same way you're trying to cut costs. So they might actually jump ship and go to your rivals. So you want to be proactive here and not being reactive. You have to go on offense. The time is not right to go on defense. In a recession, you want to go on offense. You want to be proactive. So trying to have make a list of your top 10 clients and have a strategy for each of them. If they are a top 10 clients, chances are you maintain a large inventory or a large catalog of info about them. You know what they like, you know what kind of products they buy, you know their purchasing patterns. So you have some kind of intel on those clients. Use that intel to your advantage. All right. I'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. We're still having a conversation around how your company can pull through an economic downturn. And this is the ultimate small business survival guide. Now, adapt your business to the economic downturn. You have to understand that the business environment in a recession is way different from the good years, right? Consumers spend differently, and this will force your small business to adjust accordingly, right? Now, here are a few things you can still do. Reduce inventory costs. This is very important. You want to reduce inventory costs, right? If you have a lot of cash tied up in inventory, now is the time to reduce that. All right. Maybe you want to increase the frequency of delivery, right? You don't want to buy inventory and just store it. No, you don't. Because a lot of businesses would want to, have a huge amount of inventory sitting in the warehouse waiting for the big order, right? No, you want to reduce the amount of inventory you're holding and free up much needed cash. Okay. Another thing you want to think about is revamp your product line. You want to launch a new marketing campaign. So the money you're saving by reducing cost and by increasing the collection period when it comes to receivables, that money, use part of it to revamp your product line. This is the time to take a second look at your existing product portfolio and see if there are some products you need to dispose of. You need to discontinue some services that are not very competitive, and introduce a new product or service. In addition, you also want to think about launching a new marketing campaign. Now, there are some products and services that thrive in a recession. Now, we have an entire show dedicated to that subject, so I'm not really going to go deeply here, but this could be a good opportunity, right? Because consumers, and research has shown it, spend differently in a recession, right? They want to get more value out of their purchases. So the thing here is that if you can position your business as a great value, you will outlive the recession, right? Remember though, that when I'm talking about value, I'm not referring to low price. I'm not referring to cheap. No, I'm not asking you to slash prices to drive more demand, because in the end, that's not a sustainable practice, right? Right. So, you don't want to engage into a war to the bottom where, your rivals will be willing to lose money by making deeper price cuts. No, if you make drastic price cutting, the tactic you're using in the recession, you will not survive. So what you want to do is you can maintain the price you currently have or increase that price a little bit, but you can justify that through an appropriate marketing campaign so that you can highlight to the market your amazing values, right? Your amazing brand. So this is the time to reposition yourself. Another thing you need to do, and that's number 11, you want to find ways to outpace rivals, right? Because you have to understand, in a recession, all your competitors are in the same boat as you, right? So now is the time for you to think about how you can swing that boat, how you can launch a new initiative. I was talking earlier about launching a new marketing campaign or revamping your product line, right? What can you do to take market share from your rivals, right? The thing here is that you have to come up with a plan to position yourself to accelerate through the recovery. Because what's going to happen is, and this happens in every recession, is that at the end, you're going to have survivors who are stronger, and the weakest just get eaten. They file for bankruptcy or they just close doors. This is the classic Darwinian, approach here, that only the strong survive. All right, so you need to find, and this is basically a brainstorming process whereby you collect some competitive intel from your from the market and use that to your advantage. All right. Now, you can get advice from other business owners. You can network. You don't have to come up with the questions, the questions and answers by yourself, right? There are several ways to collect info, and you can reach out to a mentor or a coach, a business coach. You can you can hire a consultant, right? Of course, in a recession, the idea is not to spend too much money, but if you have to spend money to find valuable data, this is money well spent. All right. So yeah, I'll be right back right after this for the last part of today's show. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. We are still having a conversation here about how your company can pull through an economic downturn. And in the last section here, I want to talk to you about how to increase team productivity. You need to increase team productivity during a recession. Now, the first thing you want to do is that you want to cut your own salary, because you have to understand salaries constitute the most expensive part of running a small business, right? So, human capital, of course, is capital. In other words, it adds value to your bottom line. But in a recession, you feel the pain a lot more. You feel the financial pain a lot more, right? So you want to start with cutting your own salary. Cut your own salary. You can even eliminate your own salary before you cut your employee's salary, right? So the thing here is that you will actually be paying more to yourself in the future than now, right? Because once you start cutting employees' salary, you're gonna have reduced productivity. People's morale will go down. They'll start thinking about alternatives. People will start going to interviews. So first start with your own salary, and then you move on to the next. The next item is you want to cut other operating costs as soon as possible. I'm talking about the anything about the logistics. For instance, we have warehouse maintenance, storage. When it comes to the cars leasing, right? If you need 10 cars, or if you have a fleet of 10 cars leased or 20 cars, think about whether or not you need all the 20, right? Maybe you need 15 or 12. So give back the 5 or 8 to the leasing company. Okay, so cut other operating costs as soon as possible. Now, I cannot tell you which one to cut. It's up to you to look at your business and understand those necessary costs and those discretionary operating costs. Number 13, you want to cut hours before cutting salaries. This is important. If you cut someone's salary, say by 15%, but ask them to work the same number of hours, he or she will reason his or her lower hourly wage, right? And will subconsciously or otherwise reduce the productivity by the same amount or more. So it's better to cut hours. People are very, very sensitive when you start touching their money. If you cut hours, you will save the same amount of cash, but you have a better chance of retaining the same level of productivity from your employees. Think about it. Asking people to work 8 hours and getting paid the same amount, and then moving to 6 hours and getting paid the same amount. That's great, right? But then you save money on things like utilities, on things like water, on things, anything that internet, bandwidth, so on and so forth. All right. You can also even slash overtime. So you just basically ban it for 8 to 24 months. So people are forced, not forced really. I mean, they have to do the work within normal business hours. All right. Another thing you want to do is, if you need to cut costs, if you need to cut salaries, then go ahead and do it. But try to be very gradual. Try to be very strategic about it. And you want to do something very important, which is number 15. You want to communicate effectively with your staff members. You want to get everyone on the same page. This is very important. You got to be open, honest, clear with your employees. right? What you want to do here is that when you are talking to them, use the we, the plural, right? We are in this together. We're going to weather this downturn together. We're going to pull through this together. This is a family thing. This is a family mindset where, it's not like, oh, I'm the boss and you're the employees. No, it's we, right? And the thing here is that by using the we, you're able to allow them to swallow a bitter pill. Okay. And the thing here is that while you can do this, it's better to do this face to face. You can do this at a meeting, at a team meeting, or if you have a larger company, you can have a town hall style of meeting. You can do this once a month to give updates to the team, or every quarter, right? So, and never be afraid to say something like, we all need to be 5% more efficient and 5% more productive, which means that we're actually making 10%, we're making 5% more while spending 5% less, right? And you can say something like this, we all need to be 5% more efficient, or else none of us will have a job in 6 months, right? So this is very important. So if you're able to include the staff members in the problem solving process, you're allowing them to be motivated. You are empowering them. You are telling them they need to put more effort during tough times. And employees understand that. People will do anything and everything to keep their job and save their salaries if they're given a proper step by step what they need to do in hard times. All right? I'll be right back right after this. Do not go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. I am so very happy to have you around us today, and please consider subscribing to our channel and like and share and comment on this show, and turn on the notification bell when you subscribe so that you are informed in real time whenever we drop a new show. Here is a recap of today's conversation. So I gave you a small business survival guide, how your company can pull through an economic downturn. And this conversation was around 4 sections. Number one, reduce and slow down cash outflows. You can do that by cutting your monthly rent, negotiating lower interest rates with utilities companies, by cutting wasteful discretionary spending, leasing or buying used equipment, never buying new, and paying accounts payable later. Number 2, you want to increase and speed up cash inflows by collecting accounts receivable sooner, by preserving and pampering your existing client base, by doubling down on your top 10 clients. Number 3, adapt your business to the economic downturn by reducing inventory cost, revamping your product line, launching a new marketing campaign, finding ways to outpace rivals. And number 4, increase team productivity by cutting your own salary, by cutting other operating costs as soon as possible, by cutting hours before cutting salaries, by communicating effectively with staff members. All right, so this is pretty much it. Now, let me give you a pro tip here. During an economic downturn, don't forget it's very important to connect with peers, right? You want to connect with people who are in the same industry as you. You want to connect with small business owners who are you want to exchange ideas. You want to network. It's very important. Don't take this personal. Don't believe that this is only you. This is affecting everybody. And the more you're able to exchange with others, the better. Now, you don't have to exchange with your rivals. You don't have to talk to them. You can talk to people outside the industry. The bottom line here is to connect with peers. You can also try to connect with a mentor if you have one, or a business coach if you have one, right? This is what you have to do. Now, another thing you have to do here is during a recession is to look outside, right? Look global, not local. Take the recession as an opportunity to exchange with others, with other countries, to change your strategy, to shift your model, your business model, right? So start looking outside, start looking global, all right? I'll be back another time I appreciate your attention to this conversation. And until next time, remember, stay marvelous.